It is time to face that inner dragon. I'm really excited for this video today because it's just a sit down talk like we normally have done over the years. I mean, at first it was really like, hopefully the wind's not too loud. I do have a mic, not my best mic, but over the years we started out the content on this channel like just frolicking in fields and mountains in Switzerland and in Italy and France and Portugal and Spain and like just like la 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 la, and it was always just me and my arm. My arm got like so strong because of it. But then I started doing these sit down talks and, you know, just kind of feeling that piece of a tripod if you've been here for that. And then now, yeah, I'm more in this transition of like kind of taking you guys on the journey. But to be honest, the past like week or so I haven't had much going on. I am creating a new program right now, which I'm so excited about. It's going to be a free program on YouTube, and this is my first time ever saying what it's going to be about, but it's going to be about stepping into the chosen timeline and rewiring your mind, like all the topics that I'm so passionate about. A 21-day program for that, so stay tuned. That I'm hoping to go record tomorrow, and I think I might take like a vlog of it. But this topic of facing the dragon, so we've been talking a lot about this wound, this inner wound covered by protective mechanisms, and then identities on top of it, right? And then I saw this person talking about this book called Facing the Inner Dragon. What was it called? I have it right here. Facing the Dragon, which is a book I want to read from what he was sharing, but it sounded like exactly this process of what I've been working through in the past few months. So you guys know, a lot of you know, these past 6 months, 7 months have been like some of the most intense of my life. It was just so much inner transformation, business changes, you know, launching NŌVÉ, my app, and well, developing the app, closing my coaching business, being in another foreign country, and dealing with the toxic mold, dealing with my health, and just kind of like searching for the answer to soothe what I was experiencing. And I was like reaching in so many different directions, trying to figure out what that answer was to soothe the thing that was like just like really affecting me in all parts of my life. And so when I moved into the tent, I was still living in the moldy house technically, but I moved into the tent in the yard. That's when my therapist like came back into my field, and we had this most like powerful session ever, and she guided me to understanding this wound that had been like living underneath all these layers for so long and dictating literally every single thing in my life. And like I kind of understood it, but when we had this session and we broke down the layers, it was just like, it all makes sense now. And it all changed as well after it started making sense there. That's why I really want to talk about this right now. So no matter how many triggers were happening, because they were all a bit different, like at that time when I started talking to her and like when I was moving through just life as we do, I was having different triggers that were so diverse. But then I started realizing from this conversation that it was all the same feeling within my nervous system. Like it all felt the same, and it was all coming from the same place, which honestly was just like so peaceful to know, because I was like, oh, maybe it's not that difficult to really get to the root of this. So pretty much I had I don't know this wound, and then on top of it this like feisty protective mechanism, which like that makes a lot of sense. I always thought it was just like my zodiac sign or whatever, but it was this feisty protective mechanism. And then on top of that were the false identities just built out of like survival, which so many of us do. We have these identities that we build to adapt to the situations that we're in and the relationships and the dynamics that we're in. And then this makes so much sense to me why I've always felt a bit like an island or a lone wolf. You guys know we love wolves here, and like I don't think it's a bad thing to have that lone wolf tendency, but for me, I was like, even when I'm surrounded by people that I love and in situations, you know, where I'm with a lot of community, there was always kind of that like disconnect feeling, and I never really knew what it was until searching through this topic. And so my therapist and I, we developed a system and like a method of rewiring my nervous system based off of my spiritual beliefs, and through doing this consistently for the past few months now, I have learned a safety in my nervous system and in my reality that I have never known before, like a safety in the and trust in the unfolding of my life, which just feels like true peace. And it has allowed so much to start pouring into my life now because of this, because of actually healing that wound and that separateness and bringing the truth to it, which makes me so excited to announce today's paid partner, which is BetterHelp. How BetterHelp works is you take a quiz and then you are matched with a credentialed therapist, and you always have the option to change if you wish. So I did that one time, and that's how I was paired with the therapist of my dreams, who has helped me in so many ways throughout the past few years. So click the link in the description or go to betterhelp.com/Araya to get 10% off your first month of therapy. So I'm so curious if this is something that you guys have explored yourself, because honestly, like, it really truly has opened me up to so much and made life so simple to understand this concept of, like, for me, which I've talked about a few times, this wound specifically, like I kind of mentioned is in this video, is it was separateness. It was separateness from source, but like beyond that, we talk about separateness a lot on this channel and how that's like the greatest illusion of mankind. But it was more than just that. Like, it was separateness because. So separateness because I felt abandoned and forgotten by God, by source, by, you know, the divine. And that makes sense because if you guys remember when I started doing my own dream life sleep hypnosis, like before I launched it to the public and I was like kind of testing to see if it would work, I started listening to, you know, my own voice talking about my chosen timeline while I was sleeping. And then the dream that kept coming up, there was one that I had to play small in order to be loved, but then the other one was that I had to watch other people live my dream life as I was like sitting on the sideline. And that shows me that exact pattern, that exact belief that I've been discovering recently, even like with the losing the keys on the beach and then like kind of like yelling and cussing at God and realizing that it was because I felt like other people were getting life easier, we're getting things, you know, manifested quicker, and I was like, I'm literally a fucking manifestation like guide and mentor and coach, and I was like, why is it so goddamn hard? Like I finally released and spoke out loud what the protective mechanism needed to say. And so in parts work, which I really like parts work, so it kind of talks about how we have all these different parts and like none of them are actually us, and we have to give, in order to like shift and alchemize and make a difference from them in our life or with them in our life, we have to bring them to the light. We have to give them a voice. And so that's why that day when I lost the keys, my car keys here, and I was like searching on the beach, I couldn't find them anywhere, searching through the tent, and like I was already stressed from like, you know, living in a tent because of toxic mold, and like I was locked out of some accounts, and I was just like, ah! But I also knew there was a part of me that knew God was like putting me in that situation and like kind of like, you know, is it stoking the fire? It was just like poking the bear too. Like I literally felt like that, and he was like, come on, like feel it, get angry, say it. And I was like, I'm gonna fucking blow up with rage. And because I've been such a, you know, peaceful little yogi for so long, and just kind of like, in a way, like I've never really thought that I was spiritually bypassing my life, but in a way I think that like through doing all those practices of like yoga and sound bath and everything, I didn't do enough like rage practices. I didn't give enough voice to the protective mechanism. Because so if we come back to the layers, right, and I say them out of order because it's more like of importance. So the main thing that has like the charge is the wound, right? And so then on top of it is the protective mechanism, like we were saying in the beginning, and then on top are all the billions of identities, however many, that have been created, that you pick and choose from whenever you're in different situations. And like maybe you like create a new one, like a little medley of one from all the different options. But in order to get to this wound, you have to express this protective mechanism. And so that's why, like on the farm in Italy, when we were talking about like just the dreams and the visions of what to do there, and like talking about the wellness center that I was going to develop there and whatnot. We were going to make a rage room where you go in and like you break a bunch of stuff and then you make it into art, you make it into mosaic. And I was like, that was Nikki's idea, she's the farm owner, and part of me was like, I don't know, it's like I don't really have that in me. But it's so beneficial to stop suppressing if it is there. If you ever see it, if there's ever parts of you that are just like they scare you even, or like it's the way that you maybe protected yourself from certain situations or conversations or ways that you were treated growing up, like, you know, trigger warning, but like maybe you were bullied, or maybe you had like narcissists in your field, or like manipulation, or whatever, cheating or whatever, or someone like putting you down in just in some way. In those situations, we learn to protect our wound that is like so vulnerable and fragile by having whatever we put on top of that. That needs to trust that it's safe to get to the wound, because for so long it has that the primary job of it has been to protect the wound. And so we give it voice, and then we say, okay, like it is safe now to go to the wound. So how it kind of happened, because I don't know if that explains it enough. It's like when I was like cussing out God during that day, I was, you know, sitting on the beach looking through the tent just like, fuck you, like fucking forgot me, like I'm so fucking mad, like you know, I really let it rip. I was like, you want me to fucking worship you? Like I really was just, I got there, which is great. And then when it was done, like there was no controlling when it was going to be done. It just like I had to move through the day of like not having answers and just feeling it and just continuing to feel it and feel it and feel it. It's like when you move through grief, like if you've ever moved through grief, which most of you probably have, like there are stages and they are interchangeable and they, you know, are unpredictable, and you have to feel them in order to move through and heal them. And so at a certain point, when I was done and like I had released it all, I was like, okay, am I going to be punished now? Is something bad going to happen? Am I going to manifest something bad by doing this, by saying that, by feeling angry? I realized I had a fear of feeling angry or saying negative things because of the whole manifestation side of things. And then I just felt and received, and I've talked about this a couple times, but I think it's just so important and so absolutely life-changing. I cannot say this enough. Like this is the most important thing, I think, if you're going to do any manifestation work, if you're going to do NŌVÉ, my app, like this is the other part that is like, I think just as important, if not more important, is doing this. And so in that moment, sitting on the rock on the beach, I thought I would find my keys there, and I did not find my keys there. I'm sitting there, and then I started feeling like there is nothing that I could do or say that would make me not lovable, that would make me not accepted by God, by Source. And it was like a feeling, because I already knew this, but I felt it. I felt it at the deepest part of myself, because I had just broken apart that day. And I was then sobbing on the beach, and that sobbing, like there's so many frequencies when you release like real tears that get released. Then it's just like, it's, you guys know, it's like the most healing thing ever to have like a legit cry. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna just cry it out now on the beach after just like cussing out God like a sailor. I was like, wow, what a morning. I just wanted to go get a coffee. And here we are, sobbing on the beach. But it healed me like in so many ways, because I had already been doing that work with my therapist of like, okay, when a conversation triggers me, like I had a conversation about like ticks and Lyme disease, and like I just, in that conversation, I was like so triggered by it because of my own experience with it and having like PTSD with Lyme, and then, you know, feeling ignored by other people who didn't, you know, weren't listening to my experience with it and like not taking it seriously, and like all these things, right? And then like other conversations that brought up other things, and like, you know, just so much variety, like I was saying. And so I was starting, that was like the beginning, because in those moments I would say, I feel this like dysregulation, and I choose to attach to God because I realize that this dysregulation comes from separateness with source. And so I would like consciously choose. I choose to attach to God. I choose to surrender this feeling of dysregulation. I choose to attach to God. And then of course I would do like my method, my NŌVÉ method, or EFT tapping or whatever. And it was healing. And then I feel like I was brought to my knees. Like I was like really like, I don't know if it was the grand finale because like there's been more since then, but like they haven't been to that extent of the keys. But then I was ready because I understood these layers that are probably mentioned in that book from what that guy on Instagram was saying about the book. So I think that this topic is just like, it's known, right? I'm so curious if you guys know about this already, because like how, and I was like, how did I just learn this now? But it brought me to also this place of like learning to trust the divine truly, because you know, a year ago I was like, at that time, whatever I was doing, I was like leaving the farm and going to Ireland, and that's when the van broke down, and then I was like living in the hay barn, and like I felt like, you know, no one was helping me, no one could fix the van, and I was just like abandoned and like I didn't know about this stuff, but I was like, why am I not manifesting my dream life right now? Why am I not, you know, buying the Italian villa right now? Why am I not? And I wasn't ready yet because I did not have the capacity yet. I was like, why is the love of my life not in my life yet? Because I did not have the capacity. I could not get into a relationship, and I talked about this with my therapist as well. I could not get into a relationship until I saw this, until I understood this, because that feeling is an attachment wound. And so getting into any kind of relationship with an attachment wound, it doesn't set up a strong foundation. This is literally the foundation of life, is like working through this, understanding this, and clearing this. And so I was like, oh, the timing is perfect. And I'm in this situation now, which is absolutely perfect. And so when you heal this attachment wound, whatever it is for you, if it is separateness, you then get into this place, like I was saying in the beginning, of true trust, true safety. Because when you realize you're in the, like, actually feel and know, even when things don't make sense and like you don't see it in front of you yet, when you feel and know that you're in the right place at the right time, and that everything is unfolding perfectly, and that you are learning all the lessons that you need to learn at the perfect time so that everything can come into your life at the perfect time, then it's like, oh, I guess I can just like relax. And I think I just need to remind you, because this has like been one of the most powerful reminders that I've ever had in my entire life, that I discovered in a video that I listened to, a meditation I listened to in Ireland a year ago. But he had said, up until this point, you have always had enough. Like, there has never been a moment where you haven't had enough. Sure, maybe it was hard and difficult and like you didn't know how you're going to get through it, but like you have always had enough finances, enough everything to get to this moment. Because you're watching this video right now on YouTube on a device, like you've had enough to make it to this point. You will always have enough. There's always an answer to every single issue or problem or confusion or any kind of challenge that you are facing. You just don't see it right away. And when you get to this place of regulation, like true regulation within your nervous system, and trust and surrender and, you know, and peace, that is when, again, all this stuff can start pouring into your life. Also because the resistance is gone, the attachment is gone to everything else. All the attachments to it working out, like I was saying in Ireland, like, why am I not rich? Why am I not in love? Why is my van not working? Like attaching, and then resistance, because that's what that causes, is resistance, when the only single, I feel, attachment that we need is with source and with our truth and a remembrance of the love and acceptance that we truly are, the infinite abundance and unconditional love that we truly are. And again, words are words, but when you feel it, it changes everything. And so, like, step by step is like, when you feel that distrust, or when you feel that dysregulation, or when you feel that trigger, when you feel the anxious attachment in like a new connection or whatever, grabbing it, putting it in your awareness, igniting the neuron of it, because this is how we fire, you know, this is how we rewire the mind, is neurons that fire together wire together. So like literally like grabbing it in your mind, in your body, it's probably going to be there anyway, and then choosing consciously what you do want to attach to instead, what you do want to redirect it as, what feeling you want to redirect it as. And so there's like the conscious choice for me of doing that with source, but at the same time, so I choose that with source, and then I go into the visualization of my chosen timeline, and I feel the magic of that to continue to redirect my mind of like, this is where I'm going, this is what I've chosen. And so obviously, like, I understand quantum manifestation, I understand choice, I understand free will. So if I chose it, that's where I'm headed, and this is all exactly what it needs to be in order for me to get there in the most efficient way. And so then I surrender, because I've always had enough, and because I know I will always be provided for, and I'm always in the right place at the right time, and every single challenge that I ever face already has its solution created the moment that I face the challenge. And so I think that that is facing the dragon within, probably. I haven't read the book, like I've said, but it's facing those layers and those false identities. And like the other part that I didn't really mention, there's like running water in the background, I don't know if you can hear that, but the other part I didn't really mention is like the false identities. I think consciously it's important to choose to burn them away. I think that it's kind of happening naturally, collectively right now with this refinement that we've been going through, but also I feel like they just naturally will fade away, because you will feel like a divinely accurate resistance towards them. Like the thought of trying to fit in them anymore might feel absolutely repulsive. It might feel like impossible even, because you don't fit anymore. When you release the protective mechanism and when you heal the wound, you then emerge from that deepest part underneath, like your truest self emerges from underneath the wound. It's like you've been like literally just like hiding there. Like I shared a visual of this in another video. I don't know if I have time to like say it all, but like I was literally like down there in a hole, and when I cleared all the stuff, I saw myself like emerging, and the energy of that version, that truest version of myself, was so vast. Like there's no way that she could fit into any of those false identities. And like ever since I've done this work, like just so much has poured into my life, and I can't wait to like tell you guys more about that as that continues to unfold. But also, what was the also? It wasn't also. Where did it go? I don't know. I don't know where she went. That's so weird. Completely blanked there. Let's see. Aha. I remember. But also, so if you guys remember when I was in the house, or like at the house, in the tent, I was starting to talk about going back to the US. Like that was like such a strong feeling, like go back to the US, like just literally go back to your old life. Like I was like, I'm going back to even like California, you know. I have like my roots are in Florida too, but like my brain was like, go back to California and just forget this all happened pretty much. And I was thinking it was divine guidance, but really it was this wound being active and making all these decisions in my life, or like influencing all these decisions. And it was my nervous system and my subconscious just really reaching for something familiar, because I was going through this massive change and massive transformation, and they were just like, and even the ego, I think, could feel that these identities were starting to die. And so like also the ego, my mom and I were talking about this, the ego's job is also to keep you safe by giving you these identities and making you stay in these boxes of these identities, these false identities, especially if you have these layers. And so I just felt I was like going through an ego death. I was going through such a like massive painful change. And so what I thought was divine guidance was actually that those parts of myself saying run back to what's familiar. But now that I've gone through so much of this work in the past couple months, I'm like, I could not go back to that. Not right now, at least. I could not go back to my old life and like be fulfilled and feel like I, you know, was complete. One of my really good friends, Dom, who maybe you guys remember from Austria, she came to visit and we did like an Austria tour, but she's like my magic genie, and so I always reach out to her whenever I'm going through this. I've gone through it, like I went through it in Ireland as well. I was like, hey, I think I'm gonna come back. Like I'm gonna come back to the US right now. Like I can't do it. And she's like, I think you have more. I think you have more to do there. Like it's just a feeling, and like maybe just sit with this for a little while. And I was like, okay, she hasn't been wrong yet. And like my friends are really like my angels and guides often in this lifetime, and I'm so grateful for them. And I'm so glad she said that too. And so I sat with it and then had this incredible eye-opening experience, and now I'm like, wait, my life is like way different. Like where I'm headed now is like completely different than going back to California and like fighting the fight of glyphosate being sprayed in the canyons of like Laguna Beach and whatnot, which is a great idea. But that was a timeline, and yeah, that was a timeline that was probably in alignment with false identities based off of and that were created from this wound dynamic. And so when you heal this, your chosen timeline becomes way more evident and way more clear, and then it's much easier, I think, to use my method, my app, because you know where you need to go. Like in reality transurfing, it talks about like your heart and your mind needing to come into agreement on what that door is that you're choosing with your free will to walk through. And so that means like it has to be like a soul aligned vision that you have, that you're choosing with your mind, in order for this process of quantum manifestation to really take flight in the way that is possible. And so my dilemma that I was facing in this production, this development of my own app, was that I was going through all this pain and like ego death, and all these identities were telling me it's California, it's Colorado, it's Florida, it's Italy, it's Portugal, it's Sri Lanka. It's like, I was like, who am I? Because of this process. And so then when that all clears, the chosen timeline is clear, you can choose it with your free will. That's what the app is designed to help you do. In the guided sessions, it literally, like, there's a closing statement where it's like, if this timeline is for my highest good, I choose it with my free will, and I allow it to be even better than I could have ever imagined. But the whole app is just like so incredible, and I'm loving, it's like really surreal honestly, but I'm loving watching it take off right now, and watching people have an experience with it, and watching people like share about it online. I'm still, it's like my brain isn't quite understanding that yet, but I'm so grateful. So if you want to try it, you can download it, Apple and Android. It's linked in the description as well. And you do the intake, you talk about your chosen timeline, the 10 categories, and then you get in and you can have the experience of creating and generating NŌVÉs, your story times. You have a morning, evening, and chosen timeline story time. You can create pep talks, which are messages from your future self in the chosen timeline, even though there's no such thing as future or past, but in the chosen timeline, reminding you of where you're headed, all in your own voice. You can self-record or you can voice generate. You can do dream interpretation, log your dreams, log your limiting beliefs, do the guided sessions, which are designed in a way for its neurons that fire together, wire together, walking or seated guided sessions where you rewire your brain for your chosen timeline. It's so powerful with this work especially. So I feel like that I think we covered it. I think this is like what I really wanted to convey in this message. So let me know if it resonated with you in the comments, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you are new here. Leave a comment if you feel called to do so. If you don't know what to say, please leave a wolf emoji. We love wolf energy here, like I was saying. And then I think the next video is going to be film the program of the chosen timeline. So super excited to take you guys on that journey of like what that looks like. I've never done like such a production, really, I guess. Like I'm gonna just bring a nice camera, a microphone, and like be intentional about lighting and be intentional about the location and like all that. And then also super excited to have a free program on YouTube for the first time ever. So I will see you guys in the next video.